The story of the Nephilim is one of the most mysterious and controversial narratives to emerge from ancient scriptures and esoteric traditions. Often described as giants or mighty beings, the Nephilim have fascinated scholars, theologians, and seekers of hidden knowledge for centuries. Yet despite their remarkable presence in ancient texts, their story has been shrouded in secrecy, twisted by dogma, and deliberately suppressed by religious institutions, most notably the Church. But why would such a significant part of human and cosmic history be hidden from public view? What is the truth behind these enigmatic figures called Nephilim? And why does their legacy still resonate so powerfully today? In this video, we will embark on a journey to uncover the full story of the Nephilim, peeling back layers of history, myth, and spiritual insight, to reveal what was lost, forgotten, or purposely concealed. From the biblical book of Genesis to apocryphal writings like the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim emerge as extraordinary beings, half divine, half human hybrids, who walked the earth in ancient times. These giants were said to possess immense strength, profound knowledge, and a presence that disrupted the natural order. Their existence challenges modern understandings of history, spirituality, and the human condition. But the narrative of the Nephilim is not a simple tale of myth or legend. It is deeply entangled with questions of divine rebellion, cosmic balance, and the very origins of humanity's struggle between light and darkness. The Church's role in obscuring the Nephilim's story cannot be overstated. Throughout history, religious authorities have controlled the narrative, censoring texts, reinterpreting scriptures, and framing the Nephilim as mere folklore or heresy. This deliberate silencing was not accidental, but part of a larger agenda to maintain power by restricting access to esoteric knowledge that could empower individuals to question authority or understand the deeper spiritual battles shaping human existence. By relegating the Nephilim to the margins of theological discourse, the Church effectively erased a critical piece of the ancient wisdom that once illuminated the complex interplay between the divine, the earthly, and the shadow realms. As we dive into this exploration, it is essential to approach the subject with an open yet discerning mind. The Nephilim story is layered with symbolism, metaphor, and spiritual allegory. It speaks to a cosmic drama of creation and corruption, awakening and destruction. We will examine the ancient texts that mention these beings, analyze archaeological evidence that hints at their physical presence, and explore the esoteric teachings that decode their true significance beyond the literal. This video is not just a recounting of ancient myths, but an invitation to understand the Nephilim as an archetype, reflecting humanity's potential and its perils. Moreover, the influence of the Nephilim extends beyond ancient times into modern culture, conspiracy theories, and spiritual teachings. Their legacy poses vital questions. Are we descendants of these mighty beings? Do they represent an ancient lineage that shaped human civilization? Or are they symbolic of the internal giants and demons within each of us? Throughout this video, we will challenge simplistic interpretations and offer a nuanced perspective that integrates historical facts, spiritual insights, and critical analysis. By the end of this journey, you will not only gain a comprehensive understanding of who the Nephilim were, but also why their story matters now more than ever. In an age where hidden knowledge is slowly resurfacing and humanity stands at a crossroads of awakening, the Nephilim serve as a mirror reflecting our past and a beacon guiding our future. Their story is a call to question, to seek truth beyond imposed narratives, and to reclaim the ancient wisdom that has the power to transform our understanding of ourselves and the universe. Prepare to uncover the full story of the giants hidden by the church, the Nephilim, and to see the world through the eyes of ancient wisdom that challenges everything you thought you knew. This is more than history. It is a profound revelation of the cosmic forces that have shaped human destiny. Let us begin. The origins of the Nephilim story trace back primarily to one of the oldest and most mysterious books of the Hebrew Bible, the Book of Genesis. In Genesis 6:1-4, there is a cryptic passage describing how the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took them as wives, resulting in offspring, who were the mighty men who were of old men of renown. These offspring are identified as the Nephilim, a term whose exact meaning is debated, but is often translated as giants or fallen ones. The passage is brief, yet loaded with enigmatic significance, setting the foundation for centuries of interpretation, speculation, and controversy. What makes this origin particularly fascinating is the ambiguity surrounding who the sons of God were. Were they divine angels, powerful rulers, or symbolic representations of corrupted spiritual forces? This ambiguity has fueled endless debate among theologians, scholars, and mystics alike. Beyond the canonical scriptures, the Nephilim feature prominently in apocryphal and pseudepigraphal literature, especially the Book of Enoch, which is considered non-canonical by most mainstream religions, but holds significant weight in esoteric and ancient Jewish traditions. The Book of Enoch expands on the Genesis narrative, detailing the story of the Watchers, angelic beings who descended to earth, took human wives, and fathered the Nephilim. According to Enoch, these giants became corrupt and violent, consuming the earth and disrupting its harmony, which eventually led to divine intervention in the form of a great flood. The vivid descriptions in Enoch of these giants, enormous in stature, possessing unnatural strength and knowledge, add a dramatic and terrifying layer to the Nephilim's origins. This text also introduces the notion that the Nephilim's existence was a catalyst for cosmic disorder, symbolizing the dangerous blending of divine and human realms. The term Nephilim itself has been subject to extensive linguistic and interpretative scrutiny. Derived from the Hebrew root NPL, meaning to fall, Nephilim is often translated as fallen ones. This etymology suggests a double meaning. Not only were these beings physically large or powerful, but they were also spiritually fallen or corrupted. Some scholars argue that Nephilim might have been human descendants of the union between divine beings and mortals, while others propose they were symbolic representations of tyrannical rulers or ancient heroes mythologized as giants. In some traditions, the Nephilim are viewed less as literal creatures and more as metaphors for the spiritual fall of humanity and the consequences of crossing divine boundaries. Besides Genesis and Enoch, various ancient Near Eastern texts contain parallel stories of divine beings mating with humans and producing hybrid offspring who walk the earth. For instance, Mesopotamian myths speak of the Apkallu half-divine sages who brought knowledge to humanity, and the Sumerian king list mentions kings who lived for extraordinary lengths of time and possessed supernatural qualities. These cross-cultural similarities suggest that the concept of mighty beings bridging heaven and earth was a widespread motif reflecting early civilizations' attempts to explain their origins and the mysteries of power. The Nephilim story fits into this broader context, serving as a bridge between myth theology and early anthropology. The Bible itself contains several allusions that link the Nephilim to later events and figures. For example, the giants mentioned during the conquest of Canaan, such as Goliath, the infamous giant defeated by David, are often interpreted as descendants or echoes of the Nephilim. These references emphasize the persistence of the Nephilim lineage and its continuing influence on biblical history. Yet the biblical text is often vague, leaving room for interpretation and leaving many questions unanswered. This deliberate ambiguity allowed the story to evolve and become embedded in diverse traditions and teachings. Interestingly, early Jewish and Christian thinkers wrestled with the meaning of the Nephilim story, sometimes rejecting literal interpretations, while at other times embracing symbolic or allegorical ones. The idea of divine beings interacting with humanity raised theological dilemmas about the nature of God, angels, and human free will. How could divine beings rebel or fall? What did their offspring represent for humanity's spiritual journey? These questions made the Nephilim a theological puzzle, one that the Church eventually sought to regulate and control, leading to the suppression or reinterpretation of texts like the Book of Enoch. In summary, the origins of the Nephilim narrative lie at the confluence of scripture myth and ancient cultural memory. Rooted in the biblical book of Genesis, but expanded in apocryphal texts and echoed in neighboring civilizations' stories, the Nephilim emerge as mysterious hybrid beings who embody the tension between the divine and the human, the sacred and the profane. Their story invites us to explore the boundaries of spiritual knowledge and to question the narratives handed down through centuries. As we move forward, we will uncover how these origins shape the perception and legacy fight of the Nephilim through history. To understand the full story of the Nephilim, it is essential to delve into the identity and role of the Watchers, a group of beings intricately connected to their origin. The term Watchers comes primarily from the ancient text known as the Book of Enoch, where they are described as a collective of angelic beings assigned to observe and guide humanity. However, according to this text, the Watchers transgressed their divine mandate by descending to Earth, crossing forbidden boundaries, and interacting with humans in ways that ultimately led to catastrophic consequences. This narrative positions the Watchers not simply as passive observers, but as active agents of disruption, whose actions directly birthed the Nephilim. The Watchers are often depicted as fallen angels, celestial beings who rebelled against the divine order. They are said to have taken human wives, resulting in the birth of hybrid offspring, the Nephilim, who were giants with extraordinary strength and knowledge. This union between the divine and human is portrayed as a profound violation of cosmic law, an act of rebellion that corrupted both the heavenly and earthly realms. The idea of angels falling or rebelling is not unique to Enoch. It echoes throughout various religious and mythological traditions, symbolizing the dangers of crossing spiritual thresholds and the consequences of unchecked power. What distinguishes the Watchers in the Nephilim story is their role as bringers of forbidden knowledge. According to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers taught humanity arts and sciences that were previously hidden or reserved for the divine metalworking, cosmetics, astrology, and magic, among others. While these teachings advanced human civilization, they also unleashed destructive forces, including violence, lust, and sorcery. This paradox of enlightenment leading to chaos highlights a central theme in ancient wisdom. Knowledge is a double-edged sword, capable of uplifting or corrupting, depending on its use and the moral integrity of those who wield it. The Watchers' fall also signifies a cosmic fracture, a disruption in the harmony between heaven and earth. Their rebellion represents a breach in the divine order, causing ripples throughout creation. This breach necessitated divine judgment, culminating in events such as the Great Flood, designed to cleanse the earth of the Nephilim's corruption. The Watcher's story, therefore, is not only about celestial beings, but about the delicate balance between free will and divine law, between knowledge and morality. Their actions are a cautionary tale about the consequences of overstepping spiritual boundaries and the importance of maintaining sacred order. The identity of the Watchers has been subject to much debate. Some traditions see them as literal angels, spiritual beings created by God to serve specific roles. Others interpret them symbolically, representing ancient kings, rulers, or entities who abused power and led humanity astray. There are also Gnostic interpretations, which view the Watchers as archons, or cosmic forces, that imprison the soul in material existence. These differing perspectives reveal how the Watchers embody multifaceted meanings, both historical and metaphysical, that have evolved over time and across cultures. Moreover, the Watchers are often linked to the concept of divine intermediaries, beings who bridge the gap between the human and the divine. Their failure serves as a warning against the dangers of misusing this intermediary role. Instead of guiding humanity towards enlightenment and balance, the Watchers' transgressions brought confusion, suffering, and spiritual decay. This dichotomy reflects the tension inherent in any relationship between mortal and divine realms, a tension that is at the heart of many ancient mystery traditions. The influence of the Watchers extends beyond the ancient texts into modern esoteric teachings and occult philosophies. Some contemporary spiritual schools regard the Watchers as archetypes, representing the shadow aspects of the divine forces that challenge humanity to confront its own inner darkness and limitations. In this way, the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim becomes a metaphor for the internal struggles of the soul and the journey toward wholeness and awakening. In summary, the Watchers are central figures in the story of the Nephilim. They are portrayed as celestial beings whose fall from grace and union with humans brought about a profound transformation and corruption of the world. Their legacy is complex, blending themes of rebellion, forbidden knowledge, spiritual decay, and the struggle to restore cosmic order. As we continue exploring the Nephilim story, understanding the Watchers helps us grasp the deeper spiritual and symbolic layers underlying this ancient narrative, illuminating the timeless lessons hidden within. When we hear the term Nephilim, the image that often comes to mind is that of towering giants, beings of immense physical stature and overwhelming strength. This image has been popularized not only by ancient texts, but also by folklore art and modern media. However, the question arises, were the Nephilim merely physical giants, or did they possess a deeper, more complex nature that combined both physical and spiritual dimensions? To answer this, we need to examine the descriptions and symbolism found in ancient sources and the interpretations that have emerged over time. In the book of Genesis, the Nephilim are briefly described as mighty men, or men of renown, which immediately sets them apart from ordinary humans. The Greek Septuagint translates Nephilim as gigantes, which literally means giants. This translation has influenced Western imagination for centuries, fostering the perception that these beings were physically enormous. Likewise, other ancient texts, like the Book of Enoch, detail the Nephilim as monstrous beings who devastated the earth, implying a supernatural size and power. Archaeological and historical reports of giant skeletons and megalithic structures have been connected, sometimes controversially, to the legacy of these giants, further reinforcing their image as colossal physical entities. However, this physical interpretation is only one aspect of the Nephilim's identity. Many scholars and esoteric traditions argue that the Nephilim were not just giant in size, but were also beings of mixed spiritual essence, hybrids blend in human and divine or angelic natures. This duality is key to understanding their significance. Their giant stature could symbolize not just bodily dimensions, but also an elevated spiritual capacity, or conversely, an imbalance caused by their unnatural origin. In this sense, the Nephilim represent the crossing of cosmic boundaries, the union of the earthly with the heavenly, which challenges natural order. The spiritual dimension of the Nephilim is emphasized in texts like the Book of Enoch, which narrate how these beings corrupted the earth, not only through physical dominance, but also by spreading forbidden knowledge, inciting violence, and leading humanity astray. They acted as agents of spiritual darkness, their giant forms reflecting a corruption of divine energy. This interpretation suggests that the Nephilim embody the archetype of beings who are both physically imposing and spiritually fallen, serving as a warning about the consequences of hubris and transgression. This dual nature also appears in comparative mythology. In many ancient cultures, giants often symbolize chaos, untamed natural forces, or primordial powers that predate the establishment of cosmic order. Their battles with gods or heroes frequently represent the struggle between order and chaos spirit, and matter, light and darkness. Thus, the Nephilim can be understood as mythic figures, embodying these eternal conflicts, their physical giant form, a metaphor for spiritual imbalance or excess. Modern interpretations sometimes extend the spiritual-physical duality to suggest that the Nephilim had abilities beyond human comprehension, powers that included psychic insight, manipulation of natural forces, or even technological prowess lost to history. These ideas, while speculative, reflect an enduring fascination with the idea that these beings were not simply men of great size, but entities who operated on multiple levels of existence. This aligns with certain esoteric teachings that view physical form as only one expression of a more complex energetic reality. Yet it is crucial to remain cautious and critical. The tendency to mythologize or romanticize the Nephilim as giants risks oversimplifying a story that operates on many symbolic and spiritual levels. The giants of legend serve as both literal characters in ancient narratives and as metaphors for deeper truths about the human condition, our capacity for greatness, and our susceptibility to fall from grace. The challenge is to navigate between literalism and allegory, appreciating the richness of the Nephilim story without losing sight of its profound spiritual messages. In essence, the Nephilim as giants represent more than just beings of extraordinary height. They symbolize the intersection of the physical and the spiritual, the divine and the fallen. Their towering presence in ancient texts is a powerful image that speaks to the complexities of power, knowledge, and morality. Understanding this duality is essential to grasping the full impact of the Nephilim story and its enduring relevance across cultures and epochs. The story of the Nephilim as giants has long fascinated not only theologians and mythologists, but also archaeologists and historians. Throughout history, there have been numerous claims of archaeological discoveries that suggest the existence of beings of extraordinary size in ancient times. These discoveries range from unusually large skeletal remains to massive megalithic structures whose scale seems beyond the capabilities of early human civilizations. While the mainstream academic community remains skeptical of these claims, the evidence continues to fuel debates about the possible historical basis for the legends of the Nephilim. One of the most frequently cited types of evidence is the discovery of unusually large bones, or skeletons. Over the centuries, various reports have emerged describing giant human remains found in different parts of the world, from North and South America to Europe and the Middle East. Some of these findings were documented in early archaeological records or local folklore describing skeletons sometimes over 10 feet tall. However, many of these claims lack rigorous scientific validation, and some have been debunked as hoaxes, misidentified fossils of prehistoric animals, or exaggerations. Despite this, the persistence of such reports across cultures and continents suggests a shared memory or myth of giant beings, possibly linked to the Nephilim narrative. In addition to skeletal remains, ancient monumental architecture offers indirect clues that some believe point to the influence of giant beings. Structures such as the massive stone walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, the enormous megaliths of Baalbek in Lebanon, or the colossal statues of Easter Island, pose questions about the technology and labor forces available to ancient builders. The sheer size and precision of these constructions have led some researchers and enthusiasts to speculate that a race of giants or superhuman entities might have played a role in their creation. The Nephilim, with their reputed strength and knowledge, fit neatly into these theories as potential architects or overseers of such wonders. However, conventional archaeology tends to explain these structures through the ingenuity, organization, and labor of human societies, without invoking giants or supernatural forces. Advances in engineering, the development of tools, and the ability to mobilize large workforces are seen as sufficient explanations for these feats. The archaeological community emphasizes evidence-based conclusions, cautioning against romantic or mythological interpretations that lack empirical support. This tension between myth and science is a recurring theme when dealing with Nephilim-related claims. Moreover, some scholars propose that the Nephilim story itself may have originated as an allegory or cultural memory to explain these extraordinary ancient structures and the achievements of lost civilizations. The idea of giant beings could represent the awe and mystery surrounding the remnants of a forgotten past, encoded in myths to preserve their significance. This hypothesis suggests that, rather than being literal giants, the Nephilim symbolize the monumental impact of these ancient cultures on the human psyche. Despite the skepticism, there have been recent archaeological discoveries that challenge established chronologies and invite a re-evaluation of ancient human history. For example, findings of advanced metallurgy, unexplained artifacts, or genetic anomalies in ancient remains sometimes fuel speculation about lost knowledge or unusual beings influencing early civilizations. While these discoveries do not directly prove the existence of Nephilim, they open the door to considering alternative narratives about humanity's origins and interactions with otherworldly entities. It is also important to recognize the influence of cultural bias and interpretative frameworks in archaeology. Much of mainstream archaeology operates within paradigms that can exclude or marginalize non-conventional explanations. As a result, evidence that might support the existence of giants or hybrid beings is often overlooked or dismissed. This dynamic has led to a divide between traditional scholarship and alternative research, with the Nephilim story often situated at the heart of this controversy. In summary, the archaeological evidence related to giants and the Nephilim is complex and contested. While definitive proof remains elusive, the recurring themes of extraordinary size, monumental construction, and unexplained artifacts across the globe continue to provoke questions about ancient history. Whether the Nephilim were physical giants or symbolic figures inspired by the wonders of the past, their presence in human consciousness is undeniable. The ongoing exploration of these mysteries challenges us to reconsider the boundaries between myth history and the unknown. The question of why the story of the Nephilim was hidden, suppressed, or distorted by the Church is one of the most crucial and provocative aspects of this ancient mystery. Throughout history, religious institutions, particularly the Christian Church, have exercised immense control over theological narratives, sacred texts, and spiritual knowledge. The Nephilim, with their potent and disruptive symbolism, represent a challenge to orthodox teachings, and this likely explains why their story was relegated to obscurity and controversy. From the earliest days of Christianity, church authorities undertook the task of defining orthodoxy, what was accepted as correct belief, and anathematizing heresy. The existence of hybrid beings, born from divine beings and humans, raised theological dilemmas that conflicted with the Church's strict monotheistic worldview and the notion of God's absolute transcendence. The Nephilim story implied a complex interplay between the divine and earthly realms that complicated simplistic interpretations of creation and salvation. Accepting the literal existence of these giants and the angelic rebellion they represented threatened to destabilize the tightly controlled doctrinal framework. Moreover, the Nephilim's association with forbidden knowledge and transgression ran counter to the Church's emphasis on obedience and moral purity. The Watcher's role in teaching humans arcane arts and secret wisdom was seen as dangerous, linked to sin, rebellion, and spiritual decay. The Church's censorship and condemnation of apocryphal texts, like the Book of Enoch, which contained the most detailed accounts of the Nephilim and Watchers, was a deliberate move to control the narrative and restrict access to what it deemed potentially heretical or corrupting information. By removing or marginalizing such texts, the Church shaped collective understanding and prevented alternative interpretations from gaining widespread acceptance. Political power and social control also played a significant role in suppressing the Nephilim story. Religious authority was deeply intertwined with temporal power structures, and challenging established dogma risked undermining the legitimacy of church leadership. The Nephilim narrative, with its themes of divine rebellion and hybrid beings influencing human affairs, could inspire dissent or encourage questioning of authority. Suppressing such stories was therefore a means of maintaining both spiritual and political dominance. The Church's control over what was deemed sacred knowledge became a tool to shape society according to its interests. The systematic editing, translation, and canonization of biblical texts further contributed to the Nephilim's erasure. During the Council of Nicaea and subsequent ecclesiastical assemblies, the Church determined which books would be considered canonical scripture. Texts like the Book of Enoch were excluded, effectively silencing voices that offered alternative cosmologies and histories involving the Nephilim. These decisions were not only theological, but also strategic, aimed at presenting a unified and controllable version of religious truth. Over centuries, the memory of the Nephilim faded from mainstream consciousness, surviving mostly in folklore and marginal esoteric traditions. Censorship was reinforced by the Inquisition and other mechanisms of religious policing, where possession or dissemination of forbidden texts could lead to persecution or execution. This climate of fear discouraged inquiry and open discussion about the Nephilim, relegating the topic to underground circles and secret societies. The Church's suppression of this knowledge created a vacuum that alternative spiritual movements and conspiracy theories would later seek to fill. Interestingly, some scholars argue that the Church's fear was not just about the literal story of giants, but about what the Nephilim symbolized: a cosmic imbalance and a hidden history that questioned humanity's origins and destiny. Acknowledging the Nephilim meant confronting uncomfortable truths about divine rebellion, human hybridity, and the complexities of spiritual evolution. Such truths threatened the simplistic good versus evil dualism that the Church often promoted, complicating the moral and theological landscape. In modern times, the suppression of the Nephilim story has only fueled curiosity and fascination. As ancient texts are rediscovered and esoteric traditions gain renewed interest, the Nephilim narrative is emerging from the shadows, challenging us to reconsider the boundaries of history, spirituality, and authority. The Church's historical efforts to hide or distort this story reveal not only the power dynamics of religious institutions, but also the enduring human desire to seek hidden knowledge and reclaim suppressed truths. In conclusion, the Church hid the Nephilim story to maintain doctrinal control, suppress potentially disruptive knowledge, and preserve political and spiritual authority. This concealment has left a legacy of mystery and debate, compelling modern seekers to dig deeper into the ancient texts and uncover the full story that has been long buried. Understanding this context is essential to grasping the significance of the Nephilim and the reasons why their story remains both powerful and controversial. The story of the Nephilim takes on new depth and complexity when explored through apocryphal and esoteric texts, writings that fall outside the mainstream biblical canon, but offer rich perspectives on these enigmatic beings. Among these, the Book of Enoch stands as the most significant and detailed source, providing an expanded narrative of the Nephilim's origin, nature, and impact on the ancient world. In these texts, the Nephilim are not simply forgotten giants, but pivotal figures in a cosmic drama involving divine beings' humanity and the struggle between light and darkness. The Book of Enoch, a Jewish pseudepigraphal work dating from the 2nd century BCE, elaborates on the brief Genesis account by introducing the Watchers, the angels who descended to earth and fathered the Nephilim through unions with human women. Enoch portrays these giants as corrupt and violent, consuming the earth's resources and leading humanity into sin and chaos. The text emphasizes their role in spreading forbidden knowledge, magic, astrology, warfare, and seduction, which disrupted the divine order. This portrayal paints the Nephilim as both physical monsters and spiritual corruptors, symbolizing a profound cosmic fall. Beyond Enoch, other apocryphal writings, such as the Book of Jubilees and various Dead Sea Scroll fragments, reference the Nephilim and related figures, often emphasizing their supernatural origins and the consequences of their actions. These texts highlight the tension between divine will and human free will, framing the Nephilim as a cautionary tale about the dangers of transgressing sacred boundaries. Their hybrid nature embodies the consequences of mixing divine essence with mortal frailty. Esoteric traditions spanning Gnostic Christianity, Kabbalah, and occult philosophies further reinterpret the Nephilim as symbolic archetypes. In these teachings, the Nephilim represent the shadow aspects of the human psyche, the giant inner forces of ego, desire, and rebellion that must be confronted and integrated on the path to spiritual awakening. The Watchers are sometimes seen as cosmic gatekeepers or archons, whose fall from grace illustrates the challenges of navigating material existence and reclaiming divine essence. These perspectives transform the Nephilim from external monsters into internal spiritual realities. Mystical texts often decode the story as a cosmic allegory, portraying the Nephilim's birth as the result of dualistic tensions between light and darkness spirit and matter consciousness and ignorance. Their violent excess and eventual destruction symbolize the purification process necessary for the restoration of harmony in the cosmos and within the human soul. This esoteric reading offers a roadmap for understanding human suffering, the presence of evil, and the potential for transcendence. Some esoteric sources link the Nephilim to ancient initiatory mysteries and secret knowledge preserved by hidden schools. They suggest that the Nephilim's story contains encrypted wisdom about the nature of creation, the cycles of time, and the spiritual evolution of humanity. This knowledge was often encoded in myth, ritual, and symbolism to protect it from profane misuse. The suppression of these teachings by orthodox institutions has contributed to their characterization as forbidden or dangerous. In addition to textual sources, esoteric traditions frequently incorporate symbolism associated with the Nephilim in their iconography and rituals. The imagery of giants, hybrid creatures, and fallen angels appears in alchemical texts, tarot cards, and sacred geometry, representing transformational forces that must be understood and mastered. This symbolic presence underlines the Nephilim's enduring significance as mediators between the seen and unseen worlds. It is also important to recognize that the apocryphal and esoteric texts do not provide a monolithic view of the Nephilim. Interpretations vary widely, reflecting diverse cultural, historical, and spiritual contexts. Some portray the Nephilim as tragic victims of divine will, others as malevolent forces of destruction, and still others as catalysts for awakening and change. This multiplicity invites a more nuanced and layered approach to their story, ultimately exploring the Nephilim through apocryphal and esoteric texts reveals a vast tapestry of meaning that transcends simplistic literalism. It opens pathways to understand ancient wisdom, spiritual symbolism, and the human condition's complexity. The Nephilim emerge not just as giants of flesh and bone, but as profound symbols of cosmic struggle, spiritual challenge, and the potential for transformation. The story of the Nephilim inevitably leads to a cataclysmic event that reshaped the ancient world, the Great Deluge, or the Flood. This flood is depicted not merely as a natural disaster, but as a divine response to the corruption and chaos brought about by the Nephilim and their celestial fathers, the Watchers. Understanding the connection between the Nephilim's fall and the Flood offers crucial insights into ancient beliefs about justice, purification, and the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. According to the Book of Enoch and other apocryphal texts, the Nephilim's existence caused great suffering on earth. These giants, born of divine and human union, became violent and oppressive, devouring resources and leading humanity into widespread wickedness. Their influence corrupted not only the physical world, but also the spiritual balance of creation. The Watchers, who had introduced forbidden knowledge and illegitimate power, had set in motion forces that endangered the very fabric of existence. In response, the divine decreed a reset, a cleansing flood to purge the earth of this rampant corruption. This flood is often identified with the biblical story of Noah's Ark in Genesis. Yet the flood's significance extends beyond a tale of survival and rebirth. It represents a cosmic judgment aimed at restoring order and preventing further contamination of the human lineage by the Nephilim's hybrid bloodline. The waters of the flood symbolize a purifying force that washes away the excesses and moral failings of the age, allowing a fresh start for humanity, grounded in divine law and balance. The destruction of the Nephilim and the flood also carry profound symbolic meanings. It highlights the consequences of crossing divine boundaries and violating sacred laws. The Nephilim, as embodiments of transgression and imbalance, had to be removed for the sake of cosmic harmony. Their fall serves as a cautionary narrative, emphasizing that unchecked power and knowledge without wisdom lead to downfall and chaos. The flood, thus, is not merely punitive, but restorative, a necessary act to preserve the potential for spiritual and earthly renewal. However, this event also raises complex questions. If the Nephilim were hybrids born from divine beings, and humans did their bloodline truly end with the flood? Some traditions suggest that remnants of their influence persisted, seeding legends of giants and heroes in post-flood civilizations. The biblical giants like Goliath may be echoes of this lingering legacy. This continuity implies that the struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos, is ongoing and woven into human history itself. From a metaphysical perspective, the fall of the Nephilim and the flood can be interpreted as an inner spiritual process. The deluge symbolizes the washing away of egoic structures, impurities, and false identities within the human psyche. Just as the earth was cleansed externally, so too must individuals undergo inner purification to transcend lower nature and reconnect with higher consciousness. The Nephilim's fall mirrors the fall of the soul into material entanglement, and the flood represents the potential for spiritual rebirth and awakening. The flood narrative is not unique to the biblical tradition. Many ancient cultures have flood myths that speak of divine judgment and cleansing, suggesting a shared archetype of destruction followed by renewal. These parallels reinforce the idea that the story of the Nephilim's fall and the flood addresses universal themes of transformation, the consequences of hubris, and the cyclical rhythms of creation. Despite its profound significance, the flood story has also been subject to censorship and reinterpretation, especially in relation to the Nephilim. Mainstream religious institutions have often downplayed the connection between the giants and the flood, focusing instead on the moral lessons of obedience and faith. This separation diminishes the deeper cosmological and spiritual implications embedded in the original narratives. In conclusion, the fall of the Nephilim and the Great Deluge represent a pivotal moment in ancient history and mythology, symbolizing the consequences of divine rebellion and human corruption. It is a story of judgment, cleansing, and the hope for renewal, a cosmic reset designed to restore balance between the earthly and the divine. Understanding this event in its full context allows us to appreciate the layered meanings behind ancient flood myths and their continuing relevance to spiritual transformation today. The legacy of the Nephilim is believed to extend far beyond their existence in myth and scripture, influencing the very foundations of ancient civilizations. Across the world, from the mysterious ruins of Lemuria and Atlantis to the grand empires of Sumer and Egypt, traces of their impact seem woven into the cultural, architectural, and spiritual fabric of early human societies. Whether literal descendants or symbolic inspirations, the Nephilim's imprint remains a subject of fascination and debate, raising questions about the origins of human knowledge and the hidden forces that shaped civilization. In many ancient accounts, the Nephilim are credited with imparting advanced knowledge to humanity, knowledge that catalyzed progress in agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, and governance. These teachings, often attributed to the Watchers who fathered them, formed the basis of early esoteric wisdom and scientific understanding. Some esoteric traditions suggest that the Nephilim functioned as intermediaries, bridging divine knowledge and human application, thus accelerating civilization's evolution. Their influence is said to have been critical in the rise of complex societies, enabling monumental achievements that ordinary humans alone could not explain. The mythic continent of Lemuria, though debated among historians, is often linked to the Nephilim through esoteric teachings. Described as a cradle of ancient wisdom and spiritual advancement, Lemuria's inhabitants are thought to have embodied qualities attributed to the Nephilim: great stature, heightened consciousness, and deep connection to cosmic forces. This lost civilization supposedly fell due to spiritual and moral decline, echoing the fall of the Nephilim themselves. Atlantis, similarly, is portrayed as a hub of technological and metaphysical sophistication, allegedly built upon knowledge inherited from the Nephilim or similar beings. These narratives emphasize a shared theme of divine-human hybrid influence on the development and eventual downfall of early advanced cultures. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, the Nephilim's influence can be seen in the Sumerian king lists, which recount rulers with extraordinarily long lifespans and divine attributes. These antediluvian kings blur the line between human and God, reminiscent of the Nephilim archetype. The mythologies surrounding figures like Gilgamesh incorporate themes of giant beings, supernatural knowledge, and the quest for immortality, aligning with the broader Nephilim narrative. These stories suggest that the Nephilim's influence permeated the cultural consciousness, inspiring myths that reflected their power and mystery. Ancient Egypt, with its towering pyramids and rich spiritual tradition, also exhibits possible Nephilim connections. The construction of massive monuments, precise knowledge of astronomy, and the emphasis on divine kingship parallel the traits attributed to Nephilim descendants or their teachings. Some esoteric sources propose that Egyptian priesthoods preserved hidden knowledge, passed down from these giants, integrating it into their complex ritual systems. The pharaoh's claim to divine descent aligns with the idea of a hybrid lineage linking humanity to the divine, a key theme in the Nephilim story. These connections raise questions about the true origins of human civilization and the sources of ancient wisdom. Were the Nephilim literal ancestors who guided humanity's rise, or do they represent mythic archetypes encapsulating the spiritual and intellectual leaps made by early societies? While definitive historical evidence remains elusive, the recurring motifs of giants, divine teachers, and lost knowledge across diverse cultures point to a shared memory or influence that cannot be easily dismissed. The Nephilim's influence also extends into the spiritual and religious frameworks of ancient peoples. Many traditions incorporate dualistic views of good and evil order and chaos, often personified by powerful beings like the Nephilim. Their presence in creation myths and moral narratives reflects humanity's attempt to understand the complexities of existence and the challenges of spiritual evolution. The Nephilim serve as symbols of both enlightenment and corruption, reminding civilizations of the delicate balance between knowledge and responsibility. However, the downfall of these ancient civilizations, often attributed to hubris, moral decay, or divine judgment, parallels the Nephilim's own fall. This pattern suggests a cyclical lesson embedded in history. The misuse of power and knowledge leads to destruction, while humility and wisdom are essential for survival and growth. The Nephilim story, therefore, is not only a historical or mythological account, but a profound allegory for the rise and fall of human societies. In sum, the Nephilim's influence on ancient civilizations reflects a complex interplay of myth history and spiritual symbolism. Whether as literal beings, spiritual archetypes, or cultural memories, their legacy shaped the development of human knowledge, power structures, and religious beliefs. Exploring these connections deepens our understanding of the past and invites reflection on the forces that continue to shape our world today. The figure of the Nephilim, the giants born of divine and human unions, has left an indelible mark not only on ancient scriptures, but also across the vast landscape of mythology and folklore around the world. Though their origins are rooted in specific religious texts, their legacy transcends cultural boundaries, inspiring countless legends, stories, and symbols that persist even in modern times. Understanding the Nephilim's influence on mythology reveals how deeply embedded their archetype is in human consciousness and how it continues to shape our collective understanding of power, mystery, and the supernatural. Across numerous cultures, giants appear as prominent characters in myths and folktales, beings of great size and strength, often embodying primal forces of nature or chaos. In Norse mythology, the Jotun, or frost giants, are ancient adversaries of the gods, symbolizing the untamed wilderness and cosmic opposition. Similarly, Celtic legends speak of the Fomorians, monstrous giants, who represent chaos and destruction, eventually defeated by the Tuatha De Danann, the divine inhabitants of Ireland. These mythic giants share common traits with the Nephilim. They are liminal figures standing at the threshold between worlds, sometimes malevolent, sometimes tragic, and always powerful. In the folklore of Native American tribes, stories of giant beings also emerge, tales of enormous warriors or spirit giants who shaped the landscape and taught moral lessons. The Hopi, for example, recount tales of the Kachinas, supernatural entities with extraordinary powers, some of whom resemble giant protectors or guides. Such legends suggest a universal motif of beings larger than life, who bridge the gap between humanity and the divine or the unknown, echoing the Nephilim's archetypal role. Biblical giants such as Goliath have been woven into the fabric of Western storytelling, symbolizing insurmountable challenges or evil forces that heroes must overcome. These stories perpetuate the notion of giants as formidable obstacles embodying chaos or corruption. Yet giants can also represent lost knowledge or forgotten epochs, their very size a metaphor for the weight of ancient mysteries now obscured by time. The enduring presence of giant figures in folklore reflects humanity's fascination with the boundary between the human and the divine, the known and the unknown. Giants often personify the shadow aspects of existence, the wild, uncontrollable, and sometimes destructive forces that challenge order and civilization. The Nephilim, as progenitors of these themes, function as a potent symbol of the complex interplay between creation and destruction, light and darkness. Additionally, the legacy of the Nephilim in folklore often carries moral and spiritual lessons. Giants are sometimes portrayed as beings who, despite their power, suffer from hubris and eventual downfall. Their stories warn against arrogance and the misuse of strength, reminding communities of the necessity for balance, humility, and respect for cosmic laws. This didactic function aligns with the Nephilim narrative's broader spiritual message about boundaries and consequences. In some cultures, the memory of giants has also been used to explain the existence of megalithic monuments and ancient ruins. The idea that giants built or inhabited these massive structures provides a mythological explanation for feats that seemed beyond the capabilities of ordinary humans. This connection between giants and ancient architecture feeds back into the Nephilim mythos, reinforcing the notion of a hidden history, where extraordinary beings shaped the world in profound ways. Modern popular culture continues to draw on the Nephilim and their mythological descendants, weaving them into fantasy literature, films, and video games. These contemporary adaptations often blend historical, religious, and fictional elements, keeping the archetype alive and evolving. The Nephilim become symbols not only of ancient mystery, but also of the human fascination with power transformation and the unknown. Ultimately, the legacy of the Nephilim in mythology and folklore reveals how ancient narratives resonate through time informing human identity and spirituality. These giants, whether as literal beings, symbolic forces, or mythic archetypes, invite us to reflect on the nature of existence, the boundaries of power, and the eternal dance between order and chaos. Their stories challenge us to confront our inner giants and shadows, offering pathways to understanding both the past and ourselves. In contemporary times, the Nephilim narrative has taken on new life, not just as an ancient myth, but as a central element in various modern interpretations and conspiracy theories. The blending of esoteric traditions with popular culture, alternative history, and spiritual speculation has expanded the story beyond religious texts into a wider cultural phenomenon. These modern interpretations often amplify the mystery surrounding the Nephilim, attributing to them roles and influences that span global politics, secret societies, and even extraterrestrial agendas. While some of these theories inspire curiosity and alternative perspectives, others risk distorting the original spiritual and symbolic meanings of the Nephilim story. One of the most prominent modern reinterpretations is the idea that the Nephilim were the ancient architects of civilization, advanced beings who possessed technology and knowledge far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. This view posits that the Nephilim helped build monumental structures such as the pyramid Stonehenge and other megalithic sites technologies supposedly lost to time. This notion aligns with popular ancient astronauts theories, which suggest that extraterrestrial beings visited Earth and shaped human evolution. Within this framework, the Nephilim are sometimes identified as either extraterrestrials themselves or hybrids between humans and alien entities. Though intriguing, these claims often lack rigorous scientific evidence and tend to conflate myth with speculative fiction. Conspiracy theories also weave the Nephilim into narratives about secret bloodlines and elite ruling classes. Some propose that certain powerful families today are descendants of the Nephilim, possessing hidden knowledge, supernatural abilities, or dominion over global affairs. These theories are often tied to broader conspiracies involving the Illuminati, Freemasonry, or other clandestine organizations alleged to manipulate world events. The idea of fallen giants living among us has a potent allure, reinforcing fears about unseen control and the corruption of power. However, such claims frequently rely on speculation, anecdotal evidence, and sensationalism rather than verifiable facts, blurring the line between myth and paranoia. Another area of modern interpretation involves the spiritual and psychological dimensions of the Nephilim story. Many contemporary spiritual teachers and authors view the Nephilim as metaphors for internal giants, the immense and often shadowy aspects of the human psyche. From this perspective, the Nephilim symbolize the ego's unchecked power, destructive tendencies, or the spiritual obstacles that individuals must confront on their journey to awakening. This psychological reading reclaims the narrative as a tool for self-reflection and transformation, rather than a literal history. It encourages seekers to understand the giants within themselves and to balance strength with humility. The internet and social media have accelerated the spread of Nephilim-related content, blending scholarly research with speculation, personal experiences, and conspiracy theories. YouTube channels, podcasts, and forums dedicated to ancient mysteries often feature videos exploring Nephilim origins, their supposed influence on modern events, and hidden truths suppressed by governments or religious institutions. While this democratization of information can empower individuals to explore alternative viewpoints, it also raises the risk of misinformation and sensationalism, overshadowing critical analysis and historical context. The popularity of Nephilim narratives in popular culture further complicates their modern interpretation. Books, movies, video games, and television series frequently depict Nephilim, or giant-like beings, as supernatural villains, fallen angels, or enigmatic heroes. These portrayals mix elements of fantasy horror and science fiction, often detached from the original spiritual and cultural meanings. While such media perpetuate interest in the Nephilim, they also contribute to misunderstandings and oversimplifications of a rich and complex tradition. It is important to recognize the diversity and complexity of these modern perspectives. Some interpretations serve to deepen our understanding of ancient wisdom and encourage spiritual growth, while others exploit the mystery of the Nephilim to fuel fear division or conspiracy. The challenge for modern seekers is to discern credible insights from sensational claims, maintaining a balance between open-minded exploration and critical thinking. Furthermore, the resurgence of interest in the Nephilim story reflects a broader cultural shift, a collective yearning to rediscover hidden histories and spiritual truths suppressed by dominant narratives. The Nephilim symbolize the tension between authority and rebellion, light and shadow, known and unknown. Their story resonates with those who seek to reclaim lost knowledge, question established power, and explore the boundaries of human potential. In conclusion, modern interpretations and conspiracy theories surrounding the Nephilim illustrate both the enduring fascination and the complexities involved in engaging with ancient myths in contemporary contexts. Whether viewed as literal beings, symbolic archetypes, or subjects of speculative fiction, the Nephilim continue to provoke thought, inspire curiosity, and challenge us to investigate deeper truths. Approaching these narratives with discernment and reverence for their origins allows us to appreciate their multifaceted legacy and relevance today. The story of the Nephilim is not just a tale of ancient giants, but also a profound allegory about the fallenness of humanity itself. In many spiritual and theological traditions, the Nephilim symbolize the consequences of humanity's separation from divine grace, embodying both physical and spiritual corruption. Their existence challenges us to confront the reality of a fallen world and the internal struggles faced by every individual on the path toward redemption and wholeness. At its core, the Nephilim narrative is deeply intertwined with the concept of the fall, the moment when humanity transgressed divine law and became estranged from its original state of harmony with the Creator. The Watchers, celestial beings, who descended to earth and married human women, represent a breach of divine order, a crossing of boundaries that were meant to remain sacred. Their hybrid offspring, the Nephilim, thus become emblematic of this rupture. Beings neither fully divine nor fully human, caught in a liminal state that reflects confusion, imbalance, and spiritual decay. The hybrid nature of the Nephilim can be seen as a metaphor for the fragmentation of the human soul after the fall. Humanity's original unity with the divine is fractured, and the Nephilim's existence symbolizes this brokenness, a physical manifestation of spiritual disorder. Their great strength and stature are offset by moral corruption and violence, reflecting the dual nature of humanity, capable of greatness but prone to destruction. This tension is central to many religious teachings, which emphasize the need for purification, reconciliation, and spiritual awakening. In theological interpretations, the Nephilim's fall is often linked to the spread of sin and the corruption of the earth. Their influence is described as contaminating not only the physical world, but also human consciousness, leading to widespread injustice, arrogance, and cruelty. This depiction serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and the abuse of power themes that resonate deeply within the human experience. The Nephilim stand as symbols of what happens when divine gifts, knowledge, strength, freedom are misused or distorted. From a psychological perspective, the Nephilim can be viewed as archetypes representing the giants within us, the shadow aspects of the psyche that, if left unchecked, dominate and disrupt our lives. These inner giants manifest as ego-driven desires, destructive habits, and unresolved trauma. The myth of the Nephilim therefore becomes a mirror, reflecting the inner battle each person faces between higher consciousness and lower impulses. The process of spiritual growth involves confronting and integrating these shadow giants, transforming their energy from chaos into wisdom. The concept of fallen humanity also relates to the broader cosmic drama of light and darkness. The Nephilim, as offspring of celestial beings who rebelled, embody the encroachment of darkness into the human realm. Their story underscores the idea that humanity is caught in an ongoing struggle between forces of creation and destruction, order and chaos. This duality is not only external, but internal, existing within each soul. Recognizing this dynamic is essential for understanding the spiritual significance of the Nephilim narrative. Many religious traditions use the Nephilim as an example of the consequences of crossing sacred limits and the importance of adhering to divine law. Their fall serves as a warning against hubris and the temptation to usurp divine roles or knowledge without responsibility. In this way, the Nephilim story becomes a moral framework, guiding humanity toward humility, reverence, and alignment with higher principles. The legacy of fallen humanity, represented by the Nephilim, also raises questions about redemption and restoration. If the Nephilim symbolize corruption and division, their story implies the possibility of healing and reintegration. This is echoed in spiritual teachings that emphasize the potential for humans to awaken, overcome their shadow, and return to a state of unity with the divine. The Nephilim's fall is thus not an endpoint, but a call to transformation, a challenge to rise above fragmentation and embody wholeness. In contemporary spiritual discourse, this theme resonates strongly as many seek to understand personal and collective healing in a world marked by conflict and imbalance. The Nephilim's narrative invites reflection on how humanity's inner giants contribute to societal dysfunction and how addressing these spiritual wounds is crucial for global renewal. It encourages a shift from fear and blame toward compassion and empowerment. In conclusion, the Nephilim embody more than physical giants of legend. They are powerful symbols of fallen humanity's complexities. Their story encapsulates the spiritual fracture resulting from rebellion and misuse of divine gifts the ongoing internal battle between light and darkness, and the hopeful possibility of redemption. Engaging with this deeper meaning enriches our understanding of ancient texts and offers valuable insights for navigating our own spiritual journeys. In the grand narrative of spiritual warfare that spans both ancient scripture and esoteric traditions, the Nephilim occupy a peculiar and unsettling role. Neither wholly divine nor fully mortal, they exist in a liminal space, a corruption of divine order, yet a product of it. Their very existence is a theological provocation. Born from the forbidden union of the Watchers and human women, the Nephilim were giants, not just in stature, but in consequence. Their presence on Earth was considered an abomination, a breach that shattered the spiritual boundaries between heaven and earth. In the context of spiritual warfare, they are not merely historical anomalies, but archetypes of corrupted power beings that blur the lines between angelic light and human will. Many esoteric traditions describe the Nephilim as the original catalysts for the distortion of Earth's energetic grids. Their massive bodies and powerful auras were said to anchor lower density frequencies into the material plane, creating a kind of spiritual gravity that pulled humanity away from its divine origin. Some mystical teachings assert that the fall of the Nephilim marked the moment when the Earth was no longer a neutral ground, but became a battlefield between forces of light and darkness. Their DNA part, celestial part, human, was considered a curse that carried karmic weight across generations, infecting bloodlines and influencing future spiritual receptivity. Thus, the spiritual war is not just external. It is genetic, energetic, and ancestral. From a theological perspective, especially within Abrahamic frameworks, the Nephilim symbolize the ultimate rebellion, not just against God, but against the order of creation itself. Their very birth was unnatural, the result of divine beings violating sacred laws. But unlike Lucifer's fall, which was metaphysical and symbolic, the Nephilim's descent was literal and physical. They embodied fallen wisdom, raw power, and untamed ambition. This makes them unique enemies in the spiritual battle, ones that operate through distortion rather than outright denial. They corrupted sacred knowledge, taught humanity forbidden arts, and manipulated elemental forces. In many ways, they are the spiritual ancestors of modern occult manipulation and the technological overreach we see today. Some occult traditions, however, paint a more ambiguous picture. In Gnostic and Hermetic circles, the Nephilim are seen not merely as villains, but as tragic figures, souls trapped between dimensions, whose suffering mirrors humanity's own fall from grace. Rather than purely evil, they are viewed as reminders of the consequences of unintegrated divine power. In this view, the Nephilim are cautionary symbols of what happens when spiritual gifts are used without love, humility, or alignment with Source. The war, then, is not against them per se, but against the unconsciousness they represent. Their story becomes a mirror for spiritual seekers. What parts of the self still hunger for power without wisdom? For devout followers of Christianity, the story of the Nephilim often deepens their understanding of spiritual warfare. Many believe that the influence of these ancient beings continues today, not in physical giants walking the earth, but in ideological systems, occult networks, and shadow governments that trace their lineage symbolically or even literally to the Nephilim bloodline. Conspiracy theories about elite families, hybrid bloodlines, and secret societies are often grounded in this ancient mythos. For such believers, the spiritual battle is real, present, and encoded in the very structure of modern society. The Nephilim are not myth, they are the spiritual DNA of systems designed to enslave consciousness. On the other hand, mystical and metaphysical traditions often urge a more integrative approach. They do not deny the darkness of the Nephilim influence, but they encourage seekers to face it within themselves. The inner Nephilim is the part of us that longs to bypass the soul's evolution for the sake of power, dominance, or forbidden knowledge. The spiritual battle then becomes deeply internal. It's not about slaying an external giant, but confronting the arrogance of unearned wisdom, the seduction of control, and the temptation to play God. In this framing, the Nephilim serve as archetypal shadows that must be acknowledged, understood, and transmuted through consciousness. Their legacy has also shaped initiation rites in mystery schools across the ages. Many spiritual paths include symbolic battles with monstrous forces, often representing the fallen knowledge of the Nephilim. Through ritual death and rebirth, initiates are taught to navigate the chaos left in the wake of these beings. They must descend into the underworld of unconscious patterns and ascend with discernment, not just knowledge. The Nephilim in this sense are not just adversaries, they are the gatekeepers to higher understanding obstacles that, when overcome consciously, reveal the true strength of the soul. Ultimately, the story of the Nephilim forces us to wrestle with profound paradoxes. Can divine light fall so far as to become a curse? Can something born of rebellion serve as a path to redemption? Are the Nephilim merely ancient enemies? Or are they spiritual initiators disguised as monsters? In the cosmic war between light and darkness, they stand at the crossroads of both. Understanding their role is not just an act of historical curiosity, but a necessary confrontation for anyone walking the path of awakening. Because the true battlefield is not just out there, it is within. And the shadow of the Nephilim may yet linger in the corners of our own forgotten memory. Only by facing it can we reclaim our divine inheritance. The Nephilim story, far beyond its literal narrative, is saturated with rich symbolism that speaks to universal truths about the human condition, cosmic order, and spiritual transformation. Decoding this symbolism is essential to grasping the deeper messages embedded in ancient texts and understanding why the story continues to captivate and challenge seekers across cultures and epochs. The Nephilim as hybrid giants function as a multi-layered metaphor, conveying complex ideas through imagery that bridges the visible and invisible worlds. At the most immediate level, the Nephilim symbolize the consequences of transgression, specifically the crossing of sacred boundaries between the divine and the human. Their birth from the union of heavenly beings, the Watchers and mortal women, reflects the mixing of realms that were meant to remain distinct. This breach produces beings that are neither fully divine nor fully human, caught in a liminal space, representing confusion, excess, and spiritual disorder. This symbolism warns against the dangers of overstepping limits set by cosmic law and illustrates the cost of such hubris. Physically, the giant's enormous stature is emblematic of outsized power and influence. Yet this great size also symbolizes imbalance and distortion. The Nephilim's overwhelming strength mirrors the destructive potential of unchecked desires and ambitions. In many symbolic systems, size is not merely physical, but represents the magnitude of an inner force, whether it be ego pride or unintegrated shadow energy. Thus, the Nephilim's giant form can be read as a caution about allowing inner giants to dominate one's life without conscious control. Spiritually, the Nephilim embody the duality of light and shadow. They are products of divine beings, but are corrupted by disobedience and desire. This duality speaks to the tension inherent in human nature, our potential for divine connection and simultaneous susceptibility to lower impulses. The Nephilim thus serve as archetypal figures for the soul's journey, illustrating the challenges of navigating between higher consciousness and base instincts. Their story encourages self-awareness and the quest for balance between these polarities. The Nephilim are also symbolic of forbidden knowledge. According to apocryphal texts, the Watchers taught humans secrets that were not meant for mortal understanding, arts of magic, astrology, and weaponry. This transmission of esoteric wisdom is fraught with risk, representing knowledge that can either enlighten or corrupt depending on its use. The Nephilim, as bearers of this forbidden knowledge, symbolize the double-edged nature of power and the ethical responsibility that accompanies it. This theme resonates with the ancient concept that wisdom without morality leads to destruction. In mythological terms, the Nephilim can be understood as the other, the liminal beings that challenge the status quo and represent the chaotic forces necessary for transformation. Their existence forces humanity and the divine to confront questions of order, creation, and destruction. As such, they function within the cosmic cycle of death and rebirth, symbolizing the destruction of old paradigms to make way for new growth. This cyclical symbolism aligns with many ancient mystery traditions, where destruction is a prerequisite for renewal. The Nephilim's presence in art, literature, and religious iconography further illustrates their symbolic potency. Depictions of giants or hybrid beings often carry layers of meaning related to power, spiritual trial, and cosmic judgment. Symbols associated with the Nephilim, such as the black cube or the serpent, reflect complex spiritual concepts about confinement, temptation, and the struggle for liberation. Understanding these symbols enriches the study of ancient texts and reveals hidden teachings encoded in myth. Finally, the symbolism of the Nephilim invites personal reflection. As archetypes, they represent the giants within each individual, the formidable obstacles, shadow aspects, and untapped potentials that must be acknowledged and integrated. Engaging with this symbolism encourages a journey of inner alchemy, transforming the destructive aspects into sources of wisdom and strength. The Nephilim story becomes a mirror, reflecting the inner dynamics of growth, struggle, and transformation. In summary, decoding the symbolism of the Nephilim reveals a rich tapestry of meanings that transcend their literal portrayal. They are powerful metaphors for spiritual boundaries, duality, forbidden knowledge, cosmic cycles, and personal transformation. Appreciating this symbolic dimension allows us to connect ancient narratives with timeless truths, offering profound insights into the human journey and the mysteries of existence. The legacy of the Nephilim has permeated modern popular culture, where their mysterious and evocative story continues to inspire countless works of fiction, entertainment, and artistic expression. From literature and film to video games and graphic novels, the Nephilim have become iconic figures, often reimagined and adapted to fit contemporary narratives. While these portrayals can sometimes stray far from the original spiritual and historical contexts, they nonetheless serve as powerful vehicles for exploring themes of power identity and the eternal struggle between good and evil. In literature, the Nephilim appear frequently in fantasy and supernatural genres, where they are often depicted as formidable warriors, fallen angels, or hybrid beings caught between worlds. Novels such as those in the Fallen series by Lauren Kate or The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare incorporate Nephilim characters who wrestle with their dual nature and the consequences of their lineage. These stories explore themes of redemption, love, and conflict, tapping into the rich symbolism of the Nephilim as beings burdened by their origins, yet striving for transcendence. Cinema and television have also embraced the Nephilim mythos, using their image to evoke awe, mystery, and menace. Films like Noah 2014 portray giant Nephilim-like creatures as agents of divine wrath, while various supernatural thrillers and horror movies draw on the concept of fallen giants or angelic hybrids to create suspense and explore moral dilemmas. Television series in the fantasy and sci-fi genres often weave Nephilim-inspired characters or storylines into broader narratives about cosmic battles and hidden histories. These visual media capitalize on the dramatic potential of the Nephilim story, bringing it to wide audiences and fueling popular fascination. The gaming industry has also contributed to the Nephilim's cultural resurgence. Video games such as Diablo Bayonetta and Darksiders incorporate Nephilim or Nephilim-inspired beings as playable characters, antagonists, or lore elements. These games often blend mythological, biblical, and fantasy elements to create immersive worlds where the Nephilim's attributes, strength hybridity, and moral ambiguity can be explored interactively. This engagement allows players to experience aspects of the Nephilim narrative firsthand, further embedding these figures in contemporary consciousness. In graphic novels and comics, the Nephilim are depicted with a wide range of interpretations. Some works portray them as tragic heroes, doomed by their nature, while others emphasize their destructive power and connection to ancient mysteries. The visual medium lends itself well to expressing the Nephilim's dual nature, both human and divine light, and dark, through striking imagery and symbolism. This artistic portrayal keeps the Nephilim story dynamic and relevant, adapting it for modern sensibilities. While popular culture often takes creative liberties, these portrayals reflect enduring human questions about identity, origin, and destiny. The Nephilim serve as archetypes for the hybrid nature of humanity, caught between the earthly and the divine light and shadow. Their stories invite audiences to explore the complexity of power, the consequences of rebellion, and the potential for redemption. Through entertainment, the Nephilim myth becomes a mirror for contemporary struggles and aspirations. However, it is important to recognize that popular culture's fascination with the Nephilim can sometimes lead to oversimplification or sensationalism. The spiritual depth and symbolic nuance present in ancient texts may be lost in favor of action spectacle or marketability. This trend can obscure the profound lessons embedded in the Nephilim narrative, reducing it to mere fantasy or horror tropes. For those seeking deeper understanding, distinguishing between entertainment and authentic spiritual knowledge is essential. Nevertheless, the widespread presence of Nephilim themes in popular culture ensures that their story remains alive and accessible. It acts as an entry point for many to discover the ancient roots and spiritual significance of these figures. The cultural proliferation also reflects a collective subconscious engagement with the mysteries of origin, power, and the eternal battle between light and darkness. In conclusion, the Nephilim's role in popular culture is both a testament to their enduring mystique and a challenge to preserve their deeper meanings. As giants of myth, history, and spirit, they continue to captivate imaginations and provoke reflection on fundamental human themes. Their presence in modern media invites us to explore their story anew, balancing entertainment with inquiry, myth with meaning, and legend with truth. While the Nephilim story captivates imaginations with its ancient mystique and spiritual depth, it also faces significant scrutiny and skepticism from the scientific community and mainstream historians. Many regard the narrative as mythological or allegorical rather than factual, raising critical questions about the evidence supporting the existence of giants, fallen angels, and divine human hybrids. This skepticism serves as an important counterbalance, encouraging a rigorous examination of claims and preventing the uncritical acceptance of sensational or unfounded ideas. One of the primary points of contention centers on the physical evidence for the Nephilim's existence. Claims of giant human skeletons or remains that would support the biblical or apocryphal descriptions often fail to meet scientific standards for authenticity. Numerous reports have been debunked as hoaxes, misinterpretations of animal fossils, or exaggerated folklore. Skeptics emphasize the lack of verifiable peer-reviewed discoveries of humanoid skeletons of extraordinary size that could substantiate the Nephilim myth as historical fact. The scientific method demands reproducibility and critical scrutiny criteria. Many purported giant findings do not satisfy. Archaeological evidence also challenges literal interpretations of the Nephilim narrative. While ancient megalithic structures are undeniably impressive, conventional archaeology explains their construction through human ingenuity, organization, and gradual technological advancement. Theories suggesting that giants built these monuments often rely on speculative assumptions or insufficient data. The absence of direct archaeological links between these structures and any giant beings further supports the skeptical position. Scientists urge caution against conflating mythic narratives with archaeological findings without concrete proof. Linguistic and textual analyses contribute additional grounds for skepticism. Scholars note that the term Nephilim may have multiple meanings, ranging from fallen ones to those who cause others to fall, suggesting metaphorical or symbolic interpretations rather than literal giants. Biblical texts themselves are often ambiguous or fragmentary, and many of the stories about the Nephilim come from later non-canonical sources with theological or allegorical agendas. This complexity invites critical examination rather than literal acceptance. From an evolutionary biology standpoint, the notion of divine human hybrids producing giant offspring conflicts with established understanding of genetics and human development. No credible scientific evidence supports the existence of hybrid species with supernatural traits resulting from angelic human unions. Modern genetics shows no traces of non-human divine DNA in the human genome. This biological perspective further challenges literalist readings of the Nephilim narrative. Psychologically, skeptics argue that the Nephilim myth reflects universal human fears and desires rather than historical reality. The story resonates because it embodies archetypal themes of power, rebellion, and the unknown. These myths may serve as symbolic frameworks for understanding the complexities of human nature and society. Recognizing the Nephilim as myth allows for appreciation of their narrative value without conflating them with empirical truth. Moreover, scientific skepticism warns against the dangers of misinformation and conspiracy theories that sometimes surround the Nephilim topic. The blending of ancient myths with modern conspiracies can distort facts and promote unfounded paranoia. Such distortions risk diverting attention from genuine spiritual inquiry or historical research. Critical thinking and evidence-based reasoning are necessary tools for navigating these complex narratives responsibly. Despite skepticism, the Nephilim story continues to inspire inquiry and debate, highlighting the tension between myth and history, faith and reason. This dynamic interaction pushes both believers and skeptics to refine their perspectives and seek deeper understanding. While science demands rigorous proof, spirituality invites exploration of metaphysical truths that may lie beyond empirical verification. Balancing these approaches enriches our engagement with ancient narratives. In addition, some scholars advocate for a metaphorical reading of the Nephilim myth that integrates scientific understanding with spiritual symbolism. They suggest that the giants represent inner forces or societal challenges rather than literal beings. This interpretive flexibility allows the Nephilim story to remain relevant without conflicting with scientific knowledge. In conclusion, scientific skepticism and debunking serve a vital role in critically evaluating the Nephilim narrative. While empirical evidence does not support a literal existence of giants or divine human hybrids, the myth's symbolic and cultural significance endures. Approaching the story with intellectual rigor and open-mindedness enables a richer dialogue between science, spirituality, and mythology, fostering a balanced appreciation of one of humanity's most compelling ancient mysteries. In the modern age, interpreting the story of the Nephilim requires a delicate balance between respecting ancient traditions and applying contemporary understanding. The Nephilim narrative, steeped in mystery, allegory, and contested history, invites us to engage not only intellectually, but also spiritually and symbolically. To interpret this story today is to navigate a complex web of meanings, historical, theological, psychological, and cultural, that together form a rich tapestry of human experience and cosmic insight. The first step in approaching the Nephilim story is to recognize its multi-layered nature. On one level, it is an ancient myth recorded in religious texts that serve to explain phenomena beyond the grasp of early human understanding. On another, it is a theological parable addressing themes of transgression, punishment, and redemption. And yet beyond these, it holds psychological and spiritual significance as an archetype reflecting internal human struggles and the dualities within the soul. Understanding that the story operates on these multiple planes allows us to appreciate its depth and avoid reductive readings. Historically, the Nephilim story was shaped by the cultural and religious contexts of the time. Early writers sought to make sense of the tensions between divine beings and humans, chaos, and order, purity, and corruption. Recognizing this helps modern interpreters place the narrative within the worldview of ancient societies, rather than imposing modern scientific criteria or literalism. The symbolic language and mythic motifs must be read with sensitivity to their original milieu, as well as an openness to evolving interpretations. Theologically, the Nephilim story warns against hubris and the violation of sacred boundaries. It emphasizes the consequences of crossing limits set by divine order and the dangers inherent in mixing the mortal with the immortal improperly. In contemporary interpretation, this can be seen as a caution about overstepping ethical and spiritual bounds in the pursuit of power or knowledge. It calls for humility, reverence, and an awareness of the interconnectedness of all creation. Psychologically, the Nephilim can be understood as metaphors for the giants within the shadow elements of our psyche that, when unacknowledged, wreak havoc in our lives. They represent the untamed forces of desire, pride, and rebellion that must be confronted and integrated for personal growth. This inner work mirrors the cosmic drama of the Nephilim's fall and invites modern seekers to embark on journeys of self-awareness, healing, and transformation. In this light, the story becomes a guide for spiritual development, rather than a historical record. Culturally, the Nephilim narrative resonates with humanity's fascination with the unknown, the supernatural, and the origins of civilization. Their story taps into universal themes of power, mystery, and the tension between light and darkness. Modern storytelling, whether in books, movies, or games, reflects and reshapes these themes, showing the enduring relevance of the Nephilim archetype. Engaging critically with these cultural expressions can deepen our understanding of how myths evolve and continue to influence contemporary consciousness. To interpret the Nephilim story responsibly today, it is crucial to apply discernment. Separating fact from fiction, symbolism from literalism, and spiritual truth from sensationalism requires a thoughtful and informed approach. Scholars and spiritual practitioners alike benefit from studying the original texts, understanding the historical context, and exploring multiple perspectives. This multidisciplinary approach enriches interpretation and avoids dogmatic or superficial conclusions. Additionally, acknowledging the limitations of human knowledge is important. The mysteries surrounding the Nephilim touch on questions that may transcend empirical verification, inviting humility and openness. The story encourages seekers to embrace paradox, to hold space for multiple truths, and to respect the ineffable dimensions of existence. This stance allows for a dynamic and evolving interpretation that remains meaningful across time and cultures. Contemporary interpretations also benefit from dialogue between science and spirituality. While science may challenge literal claims about the Nephilim, it also opens avenues for metaphorical and psychological understanding. Spiritual teachings provide frameworks for exploring the deeper lessons encoded in the myth. Integrating these approaches fosters a holistic understanding that honors both reason and intuition. Importantly, the Nephilim story invites personal reflection. How do we confront our inner giants? In what ways do we cross sacred boundaries in our own lives, and what are the consequences? The narrative serves as a mirror, encouraging self-examination and the pursuit of balance and harmony. Interpreting the story through this lens transforms it from an ancient curiosity into a living guide for modern spiritual practice. In conclusion, interpreting the Nephilim story today is a rich and nuanced endeavor. It requires openness to multiple dimensions: historical, theological, psychological, and cultural, combined with discernment and humility. Whether viewed as myth, metaphor, or mystery, the Nephilim offer timeless insights into the human condition and the spiritual journey. Embracing this complexity allows us to honor the ancient wisdom while finding relevance for our contemporary lives. The story of the Nephilim as beings born of divine and human unions raises profound questions about human origins and evolution. While traditional science explains human development through evolutionary biology, some alternative perspectives explore the possibility that the Nephilim played a direct or symbolic role in shaping humanity's physical and spiritual evolution. This intersection of myth, spirituality, and science invites a reconsideration of what it means to be human and how our ancestors may have been influenced by forces beyond conventional understanding. One of the central ideas in this discussion is that the Nephilim represent a hybridization, an intermingling of different species or energies that catalyzed a leap in human development. From this viewpoint, the sons of God who interbred with mortal women could symbolize extraterrestrial beings, advanced entities, or higher dimensional intelligences who contributed genetic or energetic material to the human lineage. This theory, though controversial and outside mainstream science, posits that the infusion of these qualities accelerated the development of cognitive abilities, consciousness, and physical attributes, setting humans apart from other species. Supporters of this perspective often point to anomalies in the fossil record, sudden bursts of cultural and technological innovation, and unexplained gaps in anthropological history as evidence of an external influence on human evolution. The rapid emergence of complex societies' language and spiritual awareness, they argue, may be partially explained by this infusion of divine or otherworldly qualities attributed to the Nephilim. These ideas align with the broader ancient astronaut hypothesis, but are often rooted in spiritual and metaphysical interpretations rather than purely scientific ones. Genetic research, while not confirming the existence of divine human hybrids, has uncovered mysteries within human DNA, such as non-coding regions, sometimes called junk DNA, and ancient viral insertions that suggest a complex evolutionary history. Some interpret these findings as potential markers of past interventions or influences from unknown sources, resonating with the Nephilim narrative of external input into humanity's genetic makeup. While these interpretations remain speculative, they stimulate important questions about the origins and nature of life on Earth. Symbolically, the Nephilim represent the potential for transcendence and the shadow side of evolution. Their immense stature and power mirror humanity's capacity to grow and expand, but also warn of the dangers of imbalance and hubris. The hybrid nature of the Nephilim reflects the ongoing tension between our animal instincts and higher spiritual aspirations, a dynamic central to the evolutionary journey of consciousness. The story invites reflection on how humanity can integrate these dual aspects to evolve in harmony rather than division. From a spiritual evolution perspective, the Nephilim narrative underscores the importance of responsibility in the use of power and knowledge. The divine beings who contributed to the Nephilim were said to have broken cosmic laws, leading to suffering and destruction. This lesson highlights that evolutionary advancement is not merely about physical or intellectual growth, but involves ethical and spiritual maturation. True evolution requires alignment with universal principles and the cultivation of wisdom alongside capability. Many esoteric teachings view human evolution as a multidimensional process involving physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual layers. The Nephilim story can be seen as an allegory for this process, illustrating how humanity's growth involves navigating challenges, integrating disparate aspects of the self, and transcending limitations. The giants within us symbolize latent potentials and obstacles that must be understood and harmonized to realize higher states of being. In cultural contexts, myths of giants and divine ancestors often serve to explain humanity's origins and unique qualities. The Nephilim story fits within this tradition, offering a narrative framework for understanding the emergence of civilization creativity and spirituality. It connects human history to a cosmic drama, suggesting that evolution is not just biological, but also a spiritual journey, shaped by unseen forces and ancient agreements. Critically, while the Nephilim hypothesis challenges conventional views, it encourages interdisciplinary dialogue between science, spirituality, mythology, and anthropology. This dialogue fosters a more holistic understanding of human origins, recognizing the limits of any single perspective. It invites openness to mystery and acknowledges that some aspects of our past may forever elude definitive explanation, yet still hold profound meaning. In conclusion, the Nephilim story, as related to human evolution, offers a rich and provocative lens through which to explore our origins. Whether taken literally or symbolically, it highlights themes of hybridization, transformation, and the integration of physical and spiritual dimensions. This narrative encourages us to view evolution not just as a biological process, but as an unfolding journey of consciousness, one in which the lessons of the past inform the possibilities of our future growth and awakening. The association between the Nephilim and ancient technology forms one of the most fascinating and controversial threads in the story of these enigmatic beings. Legends and esoteric traditions often attribute advanced knowledge and technological prowess to the Nephilim or their Watcher ancestors' knowledge that far surpassed what conventional history credits to early civilizations. The implications of this claim are profound, suggesting that much of what we consider human innovation might have been seeded or inspired by these hybrid giants, whose legacy includes monumental architecture, sophisticated tools, and spiritual technologies lost to time. Ancient texts, including the Book of Enoch, describe the Watchers teaching humans various forbidden arts, including metallurgy, weapon-making, astronomy, and astrology. This imparted knowledge is said to have revolutionized early societies, but also led to widespread corruption and imbalance. The idea that the Nephilim possessed or passed down advanced technology frames them not simply as mythic giants, but as bearers of a hidden scientific and spiritual tradition. Such teachings would have challenged the natural order, provoking divine judgment and eventual suppression. The evidence for advanced ancient technology often points to megalithic structures that defy explanation through the tools and methods assumed to be available at the time. The precision-cut stones of the Egyptian pyramids, the astronomical alignments of Stonehenge, and the massive, intricately carved blocks of Pumapunku in Bolivia all hint at engineering capabilities beyond conventional understanding. Some researchers argue that these feats required knowledge of advanced mathematics, physics, and machinery. Knowledge that the Nephilim or their descendants might have possessed. While mainstream archaeology attributes these achievements to human ingenuity, the debate remains open to alternative explanations. Speculation about ancient power sources, energy manipulation, and even anti-gravity technologies features prominently in alternative studies linked to the Nephilim. Some propose that the Nephilim used crystal technologies or harnessed cosmic energies, enabling them to construct monumental sites and influence the physical environment. These theories often draw on spiritual concepts of energy fields and vibration, suggesting that ancient technology was as much metaphysical as mechanical. While such ideas remain speculative, they invite us to consider technology beyond the material realm, integrated with consciousness and sacred geometry. The potential loss of this ancient technology is also a recurring theme. According to esoteric traditions, cataclysmic events, such as the Great Flood or the fall of Atlantis, led to the destruction or concealment of much knowledge. The Church's historical suppression of texts mentioning the Nephilim and their teachings further contributed to the erasure of this wisdom. Modern civilizations, therefore, inherited fragments of this technology without understanding its full context or potential, leading to the dark ages in technological and spiritual development. Some interpretations suggest that rediscovering or awakening to this lost knowledge is a key component of humanity's current spiritual evolution. The return to ancient wisdom, including sacred geometry, energetic healing, and cosmic alignment, echoes the technologies once known to the Nephilim. This resurgence is often linked to the concept of a planetary awakening, or the coming of a new age, where humanity relearns its connection to universal laws and forgotten technologies. However, it is vital to approach these claims critically. Much of the discourse on ancient technology associated with the Nephilim relies on extrapolation, symbolic interpretation, or speculative connections rather than direct evidence. Skepticism is necessary to separate genuine discoveries from mythologizing or pseudoscience. Nonetheless, the dialogue between science, archaeology, and esoteric knowledge continues to grow, opening new possibilities for understanding the past. The Nephilim's connection to technology also raises philosophical questions about the ethical use of power. The ancient giants are often depicted as having misused their knowledge, leading to spiritual decay and divine punishment. This cautionary aspect reminds us that technology divorced from wisdom and responsibility can cause great harm. It prompts reflection on modern humanity's relationship with technological advancement and the need for integrating ethical and spiritual awareness into innovation. In essence, the Nephilim symbolize both the promise and peril of advanced knowledge. Their story challenges us to rethink what ancient civilizations were capable of and to remain open to discoveries that may redefine history. It also urges a balanced approach, valuing scientific inquiry while honoring spiritual insights to fully appreciate the legacy and lessons of these ancient giants. In conclusion, the Nephilim and their association with ancient technology invite us into a complex exploration of lost knowledge, spiritual power, and the evolution of human civilization. Whether as literal bearers of advanced tools or as symbolic figures representing the integration of science and spirit, the Nephilim continue to inspire and challenge us to uncover the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of history. As interest in the Nephilim story continues to grow among scholars, spiritual seekers, and enthusiasts of ancient mysteries, the future of Nephilim research presents exciting possibilities and challenges. Emerging technologies, interdisciplinary approaches, and expanding access to ancient texts are transforming how we investigate these enigmatic beings and their potential impact on history and spirituality. However, the pursuit of truth about the Nephilim also demands careful navigation of speculation bias and the fine line between myth and fact. One promising development in Nephilim research is the advancement of archaeological technologies. Methods such as ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR scanning, and 3D reconstruction are revealing previously inaccessible sites and artifacts, potentially shedding new light on ancient civilizations connected to Nephilim legends. These tools allow researchers to uncover hidden structures, map vast ruins, and analyze materials with unprecedented precision. As archaeological exploration expands into remote or forbidden areas, new evidence, whether physical remains, inscriptions, or cultural artifacts, may emerge to clarify the historical context of the Nephilim narrative. Another frontier in Nephilim studies involves genetic research and bioarchaeology. As ancient DNA extraction techniques improve, scientists can study the genetic makeup of ancient human remains with greater accuracy. While mainstream science has not found evidence of divine human hybrids, the exploration of genetic anomalies, ancient viral DNA, and unexplained lineage markers continues to fascinate researchers. Future discoveries might reveal unexpected complexity in human ancestry, or clarify the relationship between early humans and other hominins, offering nuanced perspectives on our evolutionary story, one that intersects with the mythic elements of the Nephilim. Digital humanities also play a growing role, with scholars using computational analysis to study ancient texts. Linguistic pattern recognition text, mining, and machine learning can identify connections, variations, and hidden meanings in biblical and apocryphal writings related to the Nephilim. These approaches help reconstruct lost histories and trace how the Nephilim narrative evolved across cultures and centuries. Access to digitized manuscripts and collaborative global research networks fosters interdisciplinary dialogue, enriching the interpretive landscape. Esoteric and spiritual research communities continue to explore the Nephilim's symbolic and metaphysical dimensions. Workshops, conferences, and online forums provide platforms for sharing insights and experiential knowledge, integrating ancient wisdom with modern spiritual practice. This ongoing exploration emphasizes the Nephilim as archetypes reflecting inner psychological and energetic dynamics, contributing to personal and collective transformation. The future may see further synthesis between scientific inquiry and spiritual understanding, bridging gaps between material evidence and transcendent meaning. However, the future of Nephilim research is not without challenges. The proliferation of misinformation and sensationalism particularly on digital platforms, complicates efforts to distinguish credible scholarship from conspiracy theories or speculative fiction. Researchers must navigate a complex media landscape, advocating for critical thinking and methodological rigor, while respecting diverse perspectives. Balancing openness to new ideas with empirical discipline is essential for advancing meaningful knowledge. Cultural sensitivity and respect for indigenous and local narratives are also paramount. Many ancient traditions that intersect with Nephilim lore are held sacred by contemporary communities. Ethical research practices must honor these connections, avoiding appropriation or distortion. Collaborative efforts that include these voices enrich understanding and foster holistic appreciation of the Nephilim's multifaceted legacy. Looking ahead, the integration of multiple disciplines, archaeology, genetics, linguistics, theology, and metaphysics, promises a richer, more comprehensive view of the Nephilim phenomenon. Collaborative research projects supported by technological innovation and global scholarly exchange could transform our understanding of this ancient mystery. As barriers between academic fields soften, new frameworks may emerge to contextualize the Nephilim beyond simplistic binaries of fact and myth. The future also invites reflection on the relevance of the Nephilim narrative to contemporary humanity. As the world grapples with issues of power, identity, and spiritual crisis, the story of the Nephilim offers insights into the consequences of imbalance and the potential for redemption. Research that bridges ancient wisdom with modern challenges may inspire solutions rooted in ethical awareness and cosmic harmony. In conclusion, the future of Nephilim research is a dynamic and evolving journey. With advancing technology, interdisciplinary collaboration, and deepening spiritual inquiry, we stand on the threshold of discoveries that may illuminate the ancient past and inform our present and future. The Nephilim story, rich with mystery and meaning, continues to invite exploration, challenging us to seek truth with discernment, openness, and reverence. As we come to the concluding segment of our deep exploration into the Nephilim, the giants hidden by the church and veiled in layers of myth, theology, and mystery, it becomes essential to reflect on why this story continues to matter today. Far from being merely an ancient curiosity or a forgotten legend, the Nephilim narrative holds timeless lessons and insights that resonate with the human condition, spiritual awakening, and our collective destiny. Understanding why this story endures helps us grasp its profound relevance and the urgent call it issues to humanity. First and foremost, the Nephilim story is a potent symbol of the interplay between power and responsibility. These beings born of divine and human unions embodied immense strength, knowledge, and influence, yet their misuse of these gifts led to imbalance and destruction. This cautionary tale warns us that power, whether physical, intellectual, or spiritual, without wisdom and ethical grounding, becomes a source of chaos rather than creation. In today's world, where technological advancements and social influence expand exponentially, the Nephilim narrative urges vigilance and humility in wielding such power. It reminds us that true progress must align with integrity and respect for cosmic laws. The story also matters because it challenges dominant narratives that have shaped history, religion, and culture. For centuries, the Nephilim have been marginalized or erased from mainstream discourse, their truths obscured by institutional agendas. Revisiting their story invites a reclaiming of suppressed knowledge and a re-examination of the foundations of belief and authority. It encourages critical thinking and openness to alternative perspectives, qualities essential for spiritual and intellectual growth. The Nephilim narrative pushes us to question what has been hidden and why fostering a deeper quest for authenticity and wisdom. Spiritually, the Nephilim embody the duality and complexity inherent in all beings. They are giants not only in stature, but in symbolic meaning, representing the immense potential and shadow that coexist within us all. Their story reflects the internal struggles between ego and soul light, and darkness, order, and chaos. By engaging with the Nephilim myth, we confront these inner giants, recognizing that transformation requires embracing and integrating all parts of ourselves. This process of inner alchemy is central to many spiritual traditions and remains vital in modern life. Moreover, the Nephilim narrative resonates with contemporary challenges facing humanity, environmental degradation, social injustice, and spiritual disconnection. The ancient tale of a world corrupted by unchecked power and lost wisdom parallels current crises, suggesting that the lessons of the past remain urgently relevant. Understanding the Nephilim's rise and fall offers guidance on avoiding similar pitfalls and restoring balance between humanity and nature, technology, and ethics, individual and collective well-being. The Nephilim story also connects us to a larger cosmic context. It reminds us that human history is intertwined with spiritual and cosmic forces beyond immediate perception. Recognizing this broader dimension fosters a sense of humility and wonder, inspiring a deeper connection to the mysteries of existence. The giants of old become messengers, pointing toward the transcendent, encouraging us to look beyond material appearances and cultivate awareness of unseen realities. Culturally, the persistence of the Nephilim myth reflects the power of storytelling to convey universal truths across generations. These narratives shape identity values and worldviews, weaving a shared tapestry of meaning. The Nephilim challenge us to honor the complexity of human experience and the multiplicity of truths that coexist within myth, history, and spirit. Engaging with their story enriches cultural literacy and opens pathways for dialogue among diverse traditions. Finally, the Nephilim story matters because it is a call to awakening. It invites each of us to examine our own shadows, recognize the giants within, and commit to the path of conscious evolution. Their narrative is not merely about distant beings, but about our collective journey toward healing, integration, and transcendence. It encourages us to reclaim lost wisdom, embrace responsibility, and participate in the co-creation of a more balanced and enlightened world. In summary, the Nephilim narrative endures because it speaks to fundamental aspects of power, knowledge, spirituality, and human destiny. It challenges us to rethink history, embrace complexity, and engage in personal and collective transformation. By honoring the lessons encoded in this ancient story, we connect with a timeless source of wisdom that has the power to guide humanity through the challenges of our time and into a future of greater harmony and awakening. Engaging with the story of the Nephilim inevitably raises numerous questions and often invites misconceptions. As this narrative straddles the lines between ancient scripture mythology and modern speculation, misunderstandings can arise easily. Addressing these questions and clarifying common misconceptions is essential for deepening comprehension and fostering informed dialogue. In this section, we will explore some of the most frequently asked questions and persistent misunderstandings about the Nephilim, providing clear, balanced responses that honor both ancient traditions and contemporary scholarship. One of the most common questions is, were the Nephilim literal giants who physically roamed the earth? The answer is complex. While biblical and apocryphal texts describe the Nephilim as mighty men and translate the term as giants, these descriptions may be symbolic, metaphorical, or exaggerated over time. Some scholars argue that the Nephilim represent a lineage of powerful or influential beings rather than actual enormous physical creatures. It is essential to differentiate between literal interpretations and symbolic meanings to appreciate the full depth of the narrative. Another frequent question concerns the identity of the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis, the divine beings who fathered the Nephilim. Interpretations vary widely. Some traditions view them as fallen angels, the Watchers, others as ancient kings or rulers, and some as simply a poetic way to describe powerful descendants. This ambiguity has fueled debates for centuries. Understanding these varying perspectives helps avoid rigid conclusions and opens space for nuanced exploration. Many viewers ask whether there is scientific evidence supporting the existence of Nephilim or giant humans. The current scientific consensus finds no verifiable proof of giants or divine human hybrids as described in Scripture. Reports of giant skeletons have largely been debunked or attributed to misidentified fossils. Genetics and anthropology continue to refine our understanding of human origins, but have not confirmed claims of Nephilim-related ancestry. This highlights the importance of maintaining critical thinking and distinguishing between mythological narratives and empirical science. A common misconception is that the Nephilim are evil or demonic beings. While some traditions portray them negatively due to their association with corruption and violence, others see them as tragic figures caught in cosmic conflict or as symbols of humanity's fallen state. The story is not simply about good versus evil, but about complex spiritual dynamics involving free will, consequence, and redemption. Avoiding simplistic moral judgments allows for richer interpretation. There is also confusion around the relationship between the Nephilim and other mythological giants or supernatural beings from different cultures. While parallels exist, such as the Titans in Greek mythology or the Jotun in Norse legends, it is important to recognize the distinct cultural, theological, and symbolic contexts of each tradition. Equating all giants across cultures without nuance risks erasing unique meanings and histories. Some viewers wonder why the church or mainstream religions suppress the Nephilim narrative. As discussed earlier, institutional agendas, theological control, and concerns about heresy played roles in marginalizing these stories. However, it is a misconception to assume that all religious traditions uniformly reject the Nephilim. Some Christian sects and Jewish traditions preserve their memory in various forms. Understanding this diversity counters overgeneralizations. Another misunderstanding involves the conflation of Nephilim with extraterrestrials or conspiracy theories. While some modern interpretations link them to alien beings or secret bloodlines, these are speculative and often lack credible evidence. It is crucial to separate historical and spiritual study from sensationalist claims to maintain intellectual integrity and respect for ancient wisdom. Viewers often ask how to differentiate between genuine spiritual teachings about the Nephilim and misleading or false information. Reliable study involves consulting primary sources, such as canonical and apocryphal texts, alongside scholarly research, while approaching sensational media with caution. Engaging with diverse perspectives and maintaining open but critical inquiry helps prevent falling into misinformation traps. Questions also arise about the personal relevance of the Nephilim story. Many seek guidance on how this ancient narrative applies to modern spiritual practice. The answer lies in viewing the Nephilim as archetypes reflecting inner struggles, challenges, and potentials. Their story invites individuals to confront their own giants, integrate shadow aspects, and pursue balance and growth. This perspective transforms an ancient myth into a living spiritual tool. Finally, there is curiosity about where to learn more about the Nephilim. Recommendations include studying the Book of Genesis, the Book of Enoch, and reputable scholarly commentaries. Exploring esoteric teachings with discernment and participating in dialogues with informed communities can deepen understanding. Resources vary widely, so discernment and openness are key. In conclusion, addressing viewer questions and misconceptions helps clarify the multifaceted nature of the Nephilim narrative. It fosters informed engagement, respects the complexity of ancient traditions, and encourages personal reflection. By approaching the story with curiosity and critical thinking, seekers can unlock its enduring wisdom and relevance. As our journey into the enigmatic story of the Nephilim draws deeper, many seekers find themselves eager to continue exploring this rich vein of ancient wisdom and spiritual knowledge. The Nephilim narrative opens doors to a vast and interconnected world of myth, history, esotericism, and theology, one that invites lifelong study, reflection, and discovery. Knowing where and how to continue learning is essential for anyone committed to understanding not only the Nephilim, but also the broader mysteries of human origins and cosmic purpose. One of the most important steps is to engage directly with primary ancient texts. The Book of Genesis offers the foundational biblical references to the Nephilim, providing the initial context. Beyond that, the Book of Enoch is indispensable. It offers a detailed account of the Watchers, the giants, and the consequences of their actions. While not included in the mainstream biblical canon, it remains a critical source for anyone serious about understanding the deeper layers of this story. Other apocryphal texts, such as the Book of Jubilees and various Dead Sea Scroll fragments, also enrich the narrative with complementary perspectives. For a comprehensive understanding, it is vital to study these texts alongside reputable scholarly commentaries and historical analyses. Academic works in biblical studies, archaeology, and comparative mythology provide critical insights into the cultural, linguistic, and theological contexts that shaped the Nephilim narrative. Resources like scholarly journals, university courses, and books by respected experts can help distinguish myth from history and illuminate the evolution of these stories over time. Interdisciplinary exploration enhances this journey. Fields such as anthropology, ancient Near Eastern studies, and religious studies shed light on the broader cultural environment in which the Nephilim story emerged. Understanding parallels in other ancient civilizations, the Sumerians, Egyptians, Greeks, and Norse, offers a comparative framework revealing common motifs of giants, divine-human interactions, and cosmic struggles. This comparative mythology deepens appreciation for the universality and variations of these themes. Engagement with esoteric and spiritual traditions adds a vital dimension. Many mystical paths interpret the Nephilim story, symbolically viewing the giants as archetypes of inner psychological forces or cosmic energies. Exploring teachings from Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and indigenous wisdom traditions provides tools for applying these ancient narratives to personal and collective spiritual growth. Workshops, retreats, and guided study groups offer practical contexts for integrating this knowledge experientially. Modern media and technology also offer unprecedented access to information. Documentaries, podcasts online, courses, and virtual seminars provide dynamic and interactive ways to learn. Participating in online forums and discussion groups connect seekers with diverse perspectives, fostering community and dialogue. However, it is crucial to approach these resources critically, discerning credible scholarship from sensationalism or pseudoscience. Language study, particularly of ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek, can be invaluable for advanced learners. Accessing texts in their original languages reveals nuances and meanings lost in translation, allowing a more authentic engagement with the material. Many universities and online platforms offer courses tailored to these ancient languages. Practicing discernment and maintaining intellectual humility are essential throughout this process. The Nephilim narrative touches on profound mysteries that challenge definitive conclusions. Recognizing the limits of human knowledge and embracing the unfolding nature of discovery encourages openness and patience. Balancing skepticism with wonder and analysis with intuition leads to a richer, more holistic understanding. It is also important to integrate study with personal reflection and spiritual practice. Meditation, journaling, and ritual can help internalize the lessons and insights gained from the Nephilim story. Engaging with the narrative, not only as history, but as a living symbol, deepens its transformative potential. This approach aligns with the tradition of mystery schools, where knowledge is both intellectual and experiential. For those interested in continuing this path, many respected authors and teachers specialize in Nephilim studies and related ancient wisdom. Their works provide accessible entry points, contextualizing complex ideas and guiding seekers through challenging material. Exploring these resources with critical engagement and cross-referencing diverse viewpoints strengthens comprehension and guards against dogmatism. In community, sharing insights and questions with others fosters growth and clarity. Discussions, study circles, and online communities offer spaces to test ideas, learn from others, and expand perspectives. These interactions mirror ancient traditions of oral transmission and communal learning, enriching the solitary pursuit of knowledge. Finally, staying attuned to ongoing discoveries in archaeology, linguistics, and spirituality keeps the study of the Nephilim vibrant and relevant. The landscape of knowledge is always evolving, and remaining engaged with new research and interpretations ensures that learning continues to deepen. In conclusion, continuing to learn about the Nephilim and ancient wisdom is a multifaceted endeavor that combines textual study, scholarly research, spiritual practice, and community engagement. Approaching this journey with curiosity, discernment, and humility opens pathways to profound understanding, not only of the Nephilim, but of humanity's place in the cosmic tapestry. The story that began millennia ago continues to unfold, inviting each of us to explore its mysteries and integrate its wisdom into our lives. As we reach the end of this comprehensive journey into the full story of the Nephilim, the giants hidden by the church and enshrined in layers of mystery mythology and spiritual insight, it's time to reflect on what this knowledge means for you, the seeker, and how you can actively participate in the unfolding conversation. The story of the Nephilim is not just a relic of the past, it is a living invitation to awaken, question, and transform, both personally and collectively. Here, we offer a call to action and ways to engage with our channel and community to deepen your connection with ancient wisdom and contribute to its vibrant future. First, we encourage you to take this newfound knowledge beyond passive listening or reading. Reflect deeply on the themes that resonated with you, whether it's the cautionary tale of power and responsibility, the spiritual archetypes of inner giants, or the broader cosmic dance of light and shadow. Ask yourself, how does the Nephilim story mirror your own inner journey? What shadows or strengths within you need acknowledgement and integration? Personal contemplation transforms information into wisdom and ignites the alchemical process of inner transformation. Engage actively by sharing your thoughts, questions, and experiences. Our channel thrives on community interaction, where diverse voices enrich the discourse. Comment below our videos, join discussions on social media platforms, or participate in live streams and Q&A sessions. Your unique perspective helps create a dynamic learning environment and fosters mutual growth. Remember, ancient wisdom was traditionally passed through dialogue and mentorship. Your participation continues this sacred tradition. Support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing our videos. This not only helps the channel grow, but also spreads these essential teachings to a broader audience, seeking truth in a world awash with distraction and misinformation. By amplifying the message, you contribute to a global awakening, helping others rediscover suppressed knowledge and reclaim their spiritual heritage. Every click, share, and subscription is a seed planted for collective enlightenment. Consider exploring related content within our channel. We offer a wealth of videos delving into connected topics such as the Watchers, ancient civilizations, esoteric teachings, and spiritual awakening. Curating your own learning path through these resources strengthens your understanding and contextualizes the Nephilim story within a larger framework. Consistent engagement allows you to build a solid foundation of knowledge that supports both intellectual inquiry and spiritual practice. For those seeking deeper immersion, we periodically offer workshops, guided meditations, and exclusive content designed to facilitate experiential understanding of ancient wisdom. Keep an eye out for announcements and consider joining these offerings to enhance your journey. These spaces provide opportunities for focused study, energetic alignment, and connection with like-minded seekers committed to transformation. We also invite you to support our work through donations or membership programs if you feel called to do so. Producing high-quality research-intensive content requires resources and dedication. Your contributions help sustain the channel, enabling us to continue creating in-depth explorations that honor the complexity and sacredness of the subjects we cover. Supporting the channel is a tangible way to participate in preserving and disseminating ancient knowledge. Remember, the journey of awakening to ancient wisdom and understanding the Nephilim story is ongoing. Stay curious and open, willing to question and integrate new insights. Avoid falling into rigid dogmas or sensationalist traps by maintaining discernment and balance. Engage both your heart and mind as you navigate these profound mysteries, allowing them to illuminate your path authentically. Lastly, embody the teachings you receive. The wisdom of the Nephilim story is not merely theoretical. It calls for living in alignment with higher principles, responsibility, humility, balance, and compassion. As you deepen your awareness, let your actions reflect the integration of these truths. Be a beacon in your community, modeling the transformation that ancient stories like that of the Nephilim invite us to pursue. In conclusion, your engagement matters. By reflecting, participating, supporting, and embodying the wisdom of the Nephilim story, you become part of a living tradition that spans millennia. Together, we can reclaim hidden knowledge, foster spiritual awakening, and co-create a future rooted in cosmic harmony and conscious evolution. Thank you for journeying with us. Let this be just the beginning. As we conclude this deep exploration into the full story of the Nephilim, the giants hidden by the church and veiled through millennia by layers of myth, religion, and secrecy, it is important to reflect on the enduring significance of their narrative. This story, woven with mystery and spiritual symbolism, transcends time and culture, continuing to inspire challenge and provoke seekers today. Our journey has uncovered not only the historical and theological dimensions of the Nephilim, but also their symbolic relevance to personal transformation and collective awakening. The outro invites you to carry these insights forward as part of your ongoing quest for truth and meaning. The Nephilim narrative serves as a powerful reminder that the past is never truly past. Its echoes reverberate through history, religion, culture, and even the depths of our own psyche. These giants symbolize the eternal dance of light and shadow within the cosmos and within ourselves. Their story challenges simplistic binaries, urging us to recognize the complexity of existence and the multifaceted nature of power, knowledge, and spirituality. As ancient as the tale is, its lessons remain vital for navigating the challenges of our modern world. One of the greatest takeaways from this journey is the importance of reclaiming suppressed or forgotten knowledge. The story of the Nephilim was deliberately hidden or distorted by institutional powers fearful of its disruptive potential. By bringing this story to light, we participate in a larger movement of awakening, a collective endeavor to recover truths that empower rather than imprison. This reclaiming is not merely intellectual, but deeply spiritual, inviting us to reconnect with lost wisdom that can guide us toward balance and harmony. On a personal level, the Nephilim symbolize the giants within us, the formidable forces of ego, desire, fear, and shadow that often govern our lives unconsciously. Their tale encourages us to confront these internal giants with courage, and compassion, transforming them from destructive tendencies into sources of strength and wisdom. This inner alchemy is at the heart of spiritual growth and liberation, reminding us that the greatest battles and victories take place within. Collectively, the Nephilim story reflects humanity's ongoing struggle with power responsibility and ethical evolution. It highlights the consequences of crossing boundaries without reverence and the necessity of aligning knowledge with higher principles. These ancient giants become mirrors for societal challenges, offering insight into the cycles of rise and fall that characterize civilizations. Their legacy urges us to learn from history and to co-create a future rooted in conscious stewardship. As you continue your path, carry with you the spirit of inquiry and discernment. The Nephilim narrative, rich with paradox and layered meaning, resists simple answers. Embrace its mysteries as invitations to deepen your understanding, challenge assumptions, and cultivate wisdom. Seek diverse perspectives, honor the interplay of myth and history, and remain open to the unfolding nature of truth. Remember, the journey does not end here. The story of the Nephilim is a gateway, a threshold into broader explorations of ancient wisdom, cosmic order, and human destiny. It beckons you to continue exploring sacred texts, esoteric traditions, and your own inner landscape. Each step taken in this quest contributes to the expansion of consciousness and the awakening of the soul. Finally, let the Nephilim inspire you to live with integrity, balance, and compassion. Their tale teaches us that power without wisdom leads to downfall, but power harnessed by love and understanding becomes a force for healing and transformation. In embodying these truths, you become part of a living legacy that bridges past, present, and future. Thank you for joining this profound journey into one of humanity's most captivating mysteries. May the wisdom of the Nephilim illuminate your path, awaken your spirit, and empower you to walk the path of truth and transformation. Until our next exploration, remain curious, courageous, and connected to the eternal dance of light and shadow within and beyond.